Phil and Rye back here on Listen Up. Ryan, something that I was not looking forward to with you. This is definitely the time of the year that we dislike for sure when it ends like this. As UConn Huskies lose in stunning fashion, in my own opinion, with the final score 73-61. Congratulations to the Ohio State Buckeyes as they advance to the Elite Eight. Ryan, a lot to talk about in a short amount of time. I know you have your hands full in this game recap. I really don't know because obviously this was a different kind of season, something that I know you've enjoyed it all year. I've enjoyed it all year. And just to think about it now being different for you and I, we're so accustomed to these last check-ins, game recaps together. It's just not going to be the same.
Yeah, it was a long, hard season, and it was quite a grind. And of course, I enjoyed doing all these videos with you, but unfortunately tonight it just wasn't meant to be, and it wasn't meant to be this season either. Rough game for UConn, but Ohio State reaches their first Elite Eight since 1993, and UConn's 16-year Elite Eight reign or 16-year straight streak or whatever you want to call it ended tonight. But the first quarter for UConn started off pretty good. Lou started off the game with 5 straight points. AZ knocked down a triple. Aaliyah got an open bucket inside, and it was a 10-2 run for the Huskies. UConn putting pressure on Ohio State early, double teaming when the Ohio State tried to get the ball inside, making the Buckeyes take bad shots as well. But again, the turnovers started to become a problem. Ohio State press started affecting UConn. Buckeyes got some steals from it, got them back into the game. And I have to say, Caroline, she got hit in the head. She didn't seem 100% to me, and neither did Aubrey Griffin. Both of them, I think, kind of dealing with some sort of injuries. Story of the season, right? But Aaliyah receiving 2 fouls was also big. Aaliyah in foul trouble for the whole entire game. Hurt UConn a little bit in terms of their offensive pressure and all-around offense efficiency as far as that goes. 2 fouls early in the first quarter for Aaliyah. So she sat the last 4 minutes or so of that quarter. I like the way Dorka was playing, and Lou shot the ball really good. UConn leading by only 2 at the end of 1. And in the start of the second is really when it all started going downhill for UConn. And they just couldn't climb out of the hole they created, only scoring 9 points, I believe, in the second quarter. Press was causing really, really big problems. AZ didn't look comfortable, but the whole entire UConn team didn't look comfortable with the press as far as that goes. And UConn could barely get the ball over half court before the 10-second violation occurred. Ohio State really turned up the defensive pressure after the first 5 minutes of the game. Ohio State 17-0 run in the span of 7 minutes. UConn not scoring for 7 minutes until AZ finally got a layup halfway through the quarter. And UConn, they really didn't even get that many field goal attempts in the whole entire second quarter, just from just from Ohio State's defense and their pressure, the press. I think UConn only got about 5 field goal attempts for that whole entire second quarter, or at least it seemed like it. Like I said, only scoring 9 points. UConn, 18 turnovers in the first half. Aaliyah Edwards at 3 fouls. Lou dealing with a knee injury as well. Cotie McMahon and Ohio State having their way inside the paint, which is very unusual to see against UConn. A lot was going to have to change for UConn to make a comeback. Luckily, Lou was able to come back out and play the third quarter. She got a bucket, but AZ got a couple good looks inside. Just couldn't seem to get them to fall. Seemed as though UConn still could not handle the pressure from Ohio State. Aaliyah Edwards picked up her 4th foul in the quarter. A lot of foul calls occurred in that quarter, some questionable ones at that. But the problem was UConn couldn't make their free throws either, which obviously didn't help them come back from the deficit they were in. UConn still trailing Ohio State by 10 in the fourth quarter. And in the final quarter, Ohio State knocking down threes, which built their lead even more. But one thing we know about UConn, they didn't give up, and they didn't. But it was a 9-0 run by UConn, put them within 9. But again, Cotie McMahon drawing a contact, getting the bucket and one, letting her presence be known, just like Ohio State pretty much did the whole entire game. Ohio State, of course, pulls off the upset, winning 73-61, and UConn does not make an appearance to the Elite Eight for the first time since 2005.
Yeah, something a little bit different I like to do, if you don't mind, is just put a focus on some of these UConn Huskies players, and just thank them for a job well done. Thank them for the joy that they gave you and I and all the millions of Huskies fans. Instead of focusing on this game, I want to give Ohio State credit, but at the same time, man, this is a sports podcast. We love it, and we all know that you love it. We don't love it so much today, right, Ryan? But
no.
But at the same time, Lou Lopez Senechal, man, when you think about some of these women that will go on into their future, whether it's basketball or not, it gets emotional. We get it. All right. We understand that. But again, I want to take this time, and instead of me reflecting on the game, I will have a couple comments about it. But I just want to thank Lou Lopez Senechal, Dorka Juhas. I want to thank all of them going down the roster, but unfortunately, the ones that are leaving, those are the ones that I like to thank the most. And it's definitely comments on the game. It was definitely a situation where Gino was not, in my opinion, he was, as long as he's been around, I get it. Every game is different. He'll be the first to tell you that. As any coach. And I think that this is something that Gino hasn't seen. Maybe he saw it years past where he digs deeper into the bench, the depth, putting more of the bench players in. But there wasn't that many this year, right? And not that many. And then when you talk about experienced bench players, just not that many. And I think it's safe to say not that many that the coaching staff could put their trust in, especially in games like this. But I think it was interesting, Ryan, because a lot of whether it was 1 minute or 15 minutes, we saw Ayanna Patterson come off of the bench. All right. We saw her come off of the bench. We saw, obviously, Caroline Ducharme play 14 minutes. And then we saw Aubrey Griffin play 22 minutes. And I get it. We saw Griffin play a lot this past season. But again, I think it's just speaks volumes to what Ohio State was coming in with, that game plan, man. We talked about it in the last check-in. And I think that obviously, it was just between the foul trouble, the turnovers, it would have just helped a lot, man. If there was just, obviously, we can't go back and change it now, but if there was just more depth on the bench, and again, more experienced players, sometimes you can't help if there is or there isn't. And unfortunately for UConn, they hold their heads high because they proved to hang in there with some of the, go figure tomorrow there's only, or whenever the Elite Eight's coming up. So yeah, they were right up there with the elite teams, in my opinion. All right. So, but yeah, when you have to, and again, I'm not saying no individual deserves not to play in a game when they are freshmen or if they have no experience, little to no experience. I'm just saying, man, I just thought it was kind of interesting to see Ayanna Patterson come off the bench in a game like this with under these circumstances, being so close to the national championship. And again, I'm glad that she did play in this game, but again, Gino was forced to, and not only that, like you said, the full court press. It's just, I really don't know. And to be honest with you, sitting here right now, man, I was high on South Carolina. And I know you don't want to hear it. Nobody else does. But to see the way that Ohio State played this evening, I'm not saying that they will win it all. But I'll sit back here and tell you right now, I would not be one bit shocked at all to see Ohio State win the national championship.
I wouldn't disagree with you. I think they do have a pretty good chance, especially if they play like they did today for their remaining 3 games. Of course, if they make it to the national championship, and we talked about that in the last check-in before this game. They had a 18-19 game winning streak to begin the year. They were ranked second for a lot of the year, up there with South Carolina, of course, up with the best of the best. And they kind of struggled to end the year, made a good run in the Big Ten and kind of gained some of the momentum back. But they came into March Madness with only a 3 seed, which is kind of low for them, in my opinion, or high, whichever way you want to look at it. But Ohio State's a really good team. We knew that coming in. And like you mentioned in the last check-in, it's whether or not UConn could deal with the full court press. And obviously they couldn't today. And I know Gino stressed that a lot in practice. I know they worked on it a lot in practice, but when it came to the game time, they just obviously didn't prepare enough for it. And like I said, the whole team just didn't look comfortable. 25 turnovers isn't going to get it done for UConn. They struggle with that a lot of the year. And like Gino said, at the end of the third quarter, beginning of the fourth quarter, when he got interviewed during the game, everything that went wrong during the season had to come at the worst time today. It just all amassed into one in this whole entire game. So very unfortunate, but like you said, very emotional day, especially for Lou Lopez Seneschal and Dorka Juhas. So along with you, I want to thank them for their contributions, and as well as the whole team, all the coaches, for another outstanding year. Nothing to be ashamed of. But it is obviously disappointing for UConn. Of course, we expect nothing but the best out of them, and I know obviously a lot of people expect them to just win the national championship every year. But I wish all the best to Dorka and Lou. I would definitely expect them to get drafted, but obviously I wish them well, whatever happens from here on out.
All right, let's get into a couple comments. And just because the Husky season is over doesn't mean that Listen Up podcast is over as well. All right. So Ryan, this time we're going to try something new, whether we like it or we don't like it. We are going to, it's pretty much, we feel like we have a job now at hand, you and I, and that's good because we are blessed because of you all. With that said, Ryan, we are going to finish down the stretch and cover some other games that is leading up to the national championship. What teams? We're not too sure yet. We will talk it out. Ryan and I will see which teams deserve to be covered the most, although all of them do at this point, right? So we'll see. We'll see what teams we will bring to you, what game recaps that we will cover leading up to the national title game next week. Ryan, let's go with one of your best 2023 videos. Phil was flat out brilliant. Ryan continues to grind. Love the self humor about the Caps. Wife and I were at Gamble Monday, excuse me. One of the best, if not the best atmospheres we have felt at Gamble in our 15 years as season ticket holders. Let's go, Lady Huskies. And it's weird he brought that up because I kind of had that feeling. I'm like, man, with UConn struggling all year with the turnovers and this and that, I'm like, this game here, although the UConn Huskies fans did show up, with it being so far away from home, I'm not saying that that's any excuse, but man, I just had to wonder, without it being a sellout Husky crowd, how would it be?
Yeah, and some people, there's different opinions. Some people think it doesn't matter. Some people do think that it matters, that whether you're home or away. And obviously South Carolina pretty much did have a home game today against UCLA. Mm-hmm. And UConn for many years did have a lot of home games leading up to the Final Four, Elite Eight, and so on. But yeah, I mean, the UConn faithful definitely showed up today, as they always do in Seattle today. But yeah, I think it definitely played an effect. I mean, when you play your first 2 games at home, the first and second round, and then travel the whole way across the country, might have a little something to do with it. So it is tough to play on the road But the UConn faithful definitely showed up today. But definitely appreciate the comment, and like I said, I love doing all these videos. It was quite a grind throughout the whole entire season, but like you said, we are definitely not done yet, and we'll for sure cover some of the remaining games and of course the national championship game.
The March hats are out and popping. Love it. Great pregame check-in. I really didn't want these two teams to play each other because I grew up in Ohio and come from a long lineage of Ohio State fans. The good news is I won't lose either way since I followed both teams. Bottom line, it will be a test for UConn and Ohio State to master their weak areas this season. Ohio State's press can be a problem. This will test UConn. As turnovers have been an issue, Ohio State also seems to have stamina for days. I myself want to get on Coach McGuff's conditioning program. However, Ohio State has to make shots to set up their press. Ohio State has struggled to score at times this season. They also lack size, which has been a problem on the glass. UConn will win if they don't turn the ball over as much, especially if Aaliyah and Dorka come out and play like they've been playing. Ohio State will win if they make shots, force turnovers, and dominate the glass. I'm excited for this one, wishing both teams the best. 1 minute, I'll be singing UConn Huskies, and the next, I'll be taking part in the Ohio chants. Marcia Clark.
Yeah, and that's probably one of the best comments we've had the whole entire year, because she pretty much summed it up pretty well. And that's what she said about UConn losing the game and Ohio State winning. That's pretty much what happened. So, and it definitely was a test for UConn today, and they didn't pass, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, Ohio State dominated the glass. They pressed UConn and forced turnovers, and that's exactly how they won the game. So it's exactly what they needed to do. And Rebecca Lobo talked about that on the broadcast today, about the Ohio State coach and all the coaches, and how they coach these women throughout the whole entire season, during the off season, to get them in shape in order to do this press for the whole entire game. And it kind of is remarkable how they're able to keep up with all these teams and do the press throughout the whole entire game. So again, hats off to Ohio State. They definitely played very well today.
This has been the story all year long. I'll just leave it at that. You know what I mean. Good old Johnny. Johnny goes, Phil, what the heck are you talking about? You are making it hard to watch the program. Ryan, the reason I saved that one for last before we head out, for the final time this season, it's been up and down for me, not putting the spotlight on me, but although you know how it's been, and Ryan, I stuck by my word all year long, and believe me, I was rooting for these Huskies. A lot of people doesn't think that I was, but at the same time, Ryan, we're sitting here right now, and we experienced a season-ending loss.
Yeah, and it was a tough loss of that. And like I said, it was a long grind throughout the whole entire season. And I think, a lot of our questions got answered throughout the whole season. And it was another season of injuries and a whole bunch of obstacles that we didn't think it could get worse than it was last season. But I'd say it matched it, and it might have been worse than last season. So we can only look at the silver lining and say we're getting a couple players back that we didn't have this season, and just look forward to the next season and see what UConn can do. But losing Lou and Dorka is definitely disappointing. But again, we're getting some healthy players back and bringing some more recruits in. So definitely a lot to look forward to, but definitely a disappointing day.
Ryan, for the final time, and unfortunately, yes, I can't believe I'm saying it. I look forward to a big off season with you. Like I said, just because it's a season-ending loss doesn't mean that we won't be here anymore for a year. We'll be here, Ryan. You can bet that. I can't wait to see all the guests, all the people that are coming up this off season. I know you have a lot in store for me, and I have a lot of surprises for you when it comes to this podcast. So I can't wait to see this summer what happens as we continue to grow. And we appreciate all of you all, every single one of you watching this. We can't thank you enough for coming through this season. Ryan, any last words before we put a cap on 22 and 23?
I don't know. I mean, it's tough for last words. You kind of put me on the spot, but I enjoy, of course, every single video. It was definitely a long grind, but I think UConn put in their best effort. Maybe not the best effort today, but they just ran into the wrong opponent at the wrong time. But like I said, a lot to look forward to for the next season. But definitely appreciate each and every one of you that clicked on and watched our videos throughout the whole entire season. Of course, I had fun recapping, doing last check-ins, every single video. So again, just thank each and every one of you.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate you. I love you, brother, and I can't wait to spend the off season with you and to see what happens. Some big key additions, hopefully, coming to this team. I know we have a lot of freshmen coming in, and we can't wait, and we all know that you can't wait. And like the great Dr. Seuss, Ryan said, like he said, Ryan, don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened. Again, Ryan, the UConn Huskies lose 73-61 as Ohio State women advances to its first Elite Eight. First time since 1993 for Austin Anita. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And Ryan Renner, I'm Phil Becerra for the final time on Listen Up, saying a good night from Maryland.